Adventure games are one of the mainstays of the medium. Ever since there's been a gamepad, we've all enjoyed a good adventure. In fact, the first game I ever played on my PlayStation could be considered an adventure game. But that's not the one I'm talking about today. Uncharted was a series I came fashionably late to. I missed out on its debut on the PlayStation 3 entirely, and had only seen little snippets from a friend or two, and never really gave it much thought. That was until I went on a few dates with someone when I was about 19 years old, and she wouldn't stop talking about it. This made 19-year-old James research the series a little more, and I decided to get the trilogy pack on the PlayStation 4, which I played through in about a month. The set pieces, exploration, and main character were all so charming and took me by surprise. This is my version of the Tomb Raider series, but that's all they were to me, an amazing popcorn roller coaster ride, which isn't a bad thing, mind you. That was until Uncharted 4: A Thief's End came out. A Thief's End was released in May 2016 and was the first of the series to be developed for the PlayStation 4, boasting high fidelity graphics and physics. A Thief's End is the fourth adventure of Nathan Drake, a character inspired by the likes of Indiana Jones and Lara Croft, with the quips and charm turned up to 11.
Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
These go to 11.
Beautifully voiced by Nolan North. But the reason I'm talking about the fourth game in the series and not the original trilogy isn't because of the explosive chases, improved gunfights, or the incredible visuals on display, but rather because the main centerpiece to this game, rather than the treasure hunting, are the relationships, and the one that stands out to me is between Nathan and Elena. Now, up to this point in the story, it's safe to say that their relationship has been anything but boring. Their meet cute was finding El Dorado together. Not that one, but rather a statue that turns people into insane inhuman creatures. Then we have a nice trip to Shangri-La while stopping a warlord from gaining immortality. And then finding the lost city of Ubar before sinking the whole thing into the sand to stop an evil djinn from coming back into the world. So, where do we find this power couple at the start of A Thief's End? At the start of A Thief's End, we catch up with Nathan and Elena in their most challenging scenario yet, a normal domestic life. They've both sworn off doing any more risky illegal adventures and have settled down with Nathan as part of a salvage crew and Elena as a reporter. But something is missing from Nathan's life. He daydreams and thinks about old adventures constantly to get away from the everyday mundanity he's found himself in. Elena even picks up on this.
Hey, are you happy?
She even encourages Nathan to take a Malaysian job that was offered by his boss, to have another adventure and to do what makes him happy, as long as he's safe in doing it. But whenever he's given the chance at such an adventure, he always finds an excuse not to. He's swerved so far from the original trilogy's Nathan that he isn't even going for the little adventures anymore, and so feels unfulfilled. That is until Sam, Nathan's long-lost brother, who he thought was dead, tells Nathan they need to find Avery's treasure in order to pay off drug lord Hector Alcazar, who Sam is indebted to. This is where Nathan first starts to lie to Elena about the work permits on the Malaysian job coming through so that he can go off with Sam to find the treasure. We see this is what Nathan has been missing for years, but it's to the detriment of his marriage and endangers his relationship to Elena. Elena feels betrayed by Nathan's inability to be truthful and share with her what has been going on in his life. Nathan tells her that it's not about the treasure, that he's only doing this to save Sam's life, and that he kept this from her to protect her, which she calls him out on, telling him he just took the easy way out.
The look on your face when you walked into this room. If you're done lying to me, then you should stop lying to yourself.
Heartbroken, Elena leaves. She recognizes how happy this life makes Nathan, but the fact that he can't even be honest with her about why he's doing this, never mind lying to her, is just another breach of trust. In this scene, we hear Henry Jackman's song For Better or Worse. representing the doubt now set into their relationship by Nathan's actions. Later into the story, Nathan finds out that Sam has lied to him about the jailbreak and owing money to the drug lord in order to get Nathan's help before being shot by the villainous Rafe, leading to him falling off the edge of a cliff and into the waters below, where he is saved by Elena. He thanks her for coming back, and she responds saying that she almost didn't this time. She went the extra step because she loves him, but shouldn't have needed to do that if Nathan had went about this differently. In the next part of the game, Nathan tries to justify his actions to Elena, but can't admit responsibility, and it's all too clear that if he can't accept his fault and grow, then this very well could be the end of their relationship. This is shown beautifully during the elevator ride and subsequent silent car ride afterwards, with no dialogue. And it is here where Henry Jackman's For Better or Worse comes back. This scene is so powerful because in a narrative as tight as Uncharted, there is usually no time wasted and very little time without dialogue, which is why this minute of the game works so well. It really grounds these two characters in a story as bombastic as this one with real issues. No dialogue, just two people in a car driving in silence, thinking about the future. It's such a brilliant scene because most of us have lived it, whether that be with a family member, friend, or romantic partner. That silence is haunting and is set up perfectly here. It's among one of my favourite moments in video game history because we do care what happens to these people. It's not just about if they make it off the island alive, but if they can still be together. In my eyes, Sam Drake represents Nathan at the start of the first Uncharted game, putting the needs of himself before others, being fixated on the treasure and lying to those around him to get to it. Whereas Elena is where Nathan has to get to by the end of the story. Honest, emotionally open, mature, and loyal. As they both get closer to rescuing Sam, Elena has this moment while Nathan is explaining what happened to the captains who founded Libertalia, the pirate utopia. She sees the look on his face while explaining all of this to her. This is what he lives for, and is the man that she fell in love with, and she truly comes to peace with that.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Which leads us up to this moment, where Nathan has to choose between Sam's path or Elena's, as Sam is still hell-bent on getting to the treasure, saying that Sully and Elena don't get it.
Actually, Sam, they do. They really do.
He finally understands that following this treasure has nearly led to the destruction of everything he holds dear, including his relationship to Elena. Nathan is really talking to himself just as much as he's talking to Sam in this scene, because he's finally able to understand how his actions have affected those around him. Nathan makes the choice to not go after the treasure, because he finally understands what he loses making that choice. In the final set piece, he goes after Sam, who takes off after the prize, mirroring what Elena did for him. A Thief's End is a love letter to the original trilogy, but it also makes Nathan take accountability for his actions, which is why it's my favourite in the series. It really matures the series by asking how far some are willing to go in their obsession before hurting those we love the most. In the end, Elena and Nate both have to find a middle ground on which they can love each other without losing what they love to do in the process. But it takes Elena crossing that bridge and meeting Nathan, and not everyone is always going to do that. We might not live quite the impossible life of Nathan Drake, but it's important to take on the lessons this game shares with us about being honest, open, and work through the struggles together. It asks us to be mature enough to know our own faults, and to work through them with those closest to us. It's hard work, sure, but that's what a relationship is, for better or worse, and it is worth it.
Come on, man. What did I miss? Jeez, Sam, where do I start?
Start with the best part.
Hey guys, thanks for watching another one of our videos. If you liked it, please leave a like and subscribe for more content. I've been James, and I'll see you in the next side adventure.